if you still care about this Chicago Bears team, chances are you actually might care about them more than some of the players on the field today. I think that's all that needs to be said about the performance we saw at Soldier Field. The Bears dropping yet another game, 34-17 to the Detroit Lions here in week number 16 of the NFL season, 4-11. That's right, a 9-game losing streak now on the books for the Chicago Bears in this 2024 season. It's going to be 4-13. Let's get that out of the way. But hey, welcome in to the Bear Report Postgame Recap here at bearreport.com. I'm Steven Johnson. He is Zack Pearson. Zack, you got to witness one hell of a game today, didn't you?
First home game at Soldier Field since Matt Eberflus was fired. And yeah, I mean, the team looks worse. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. They're having the same issues. They're falling behind multiple scores. They're playing catch up. Players are making business decisions on defense. They can't stop anyone. You know, the Lions just put on a clinic, and you could tell there was just a clear difference in the skill players for Detroit and the skill players for the Bears. No one could chase Jahmyr Gibbs down. No one could chase James Williams down. No one could catch Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sam Laporta's wide open. It kind of felt like Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell and Jared Goff and the offense were just absolutely toying with the Bears. And 9 straight losses now?
Yep.
9 straight losses. They're 4-11. Ryan Poles 2-15 against the NFC North. They're going to tank.
We need to bring up the whole we're going to take the NFC North and never give it back.
I mean, dude, it's, and people want to say, well, he had a rebuild. He had to build up what was left. And that's fair. Like, there were some bad contracts, but they have not gotten better at all.
No.
And like, even if you throw out that, quote unquote tankier, he's 2-9 against the NFC North. And one of those wins against Josh Dobbs. And the other is against Jared Goff last year in the freezing cold. Like it's I don't know, man. They got some issues and they got some big decisions to make come this offseason.
They do. And it's a real question is if we're going to see decisions being made before we get to the end of these next 2.5 weeks with what the season has left. Again, a Thursday night game, a December 26th game coming up in week 17 for the Bears against the Seattle Seahawks before they close things out in Green Bay against the Packers in week 18. And obviously looking like yet another NFC North loss, but a lot to unpack here regardless of outcome that I think a lot of people were expecting, regardless of how things were to go here. And I think just a lot of noise to really break through from what this team is, what they've been, what they've turned into, and what that's going to mean moving forward. Because, again, these last 3 weeks have clearly told us maybe Matt Eberflus wasn't all of the problem. He clearly was a problem. It's clear that his staff that he brought in, that his offensive coordinator brought in, that is no longer here as well, is well in over their heads, have no idea what they're doing. Eric Washington does not have control of his defense whatsoever. You mentioned, having made a lot of, personal decisions, players on the, very, very much money decisions, going out, not playing as a team from the get-go, ultimately. And I think there's probably 3 or 4, maybe even 5 examples specifically that we can point to today that say what is going on. And now it's gotten to the point where the guys that you have paid a lot of money to be the cornerstones of the future of this team are now partaking in those same decisions, aka Jalen Johnson, who had, quite honestly, one of his worst games of the season today, just for the sole fact that he gave up on plays. He had a very poor sportsmanlike conduct penalty that helped extend another drive. And again, just all over the field. The majority of it happened in the secondary. I believe the top 4 tacklers for today for the Bears were all secondary players, if I'm not mistaken. That never turns into a good thing. I mean, the Lions scoring on 7 of their first 8 possessions today. It's just there was nothing that was going to stop the Lions, and especially now that the Bears truly don't have anything else to play for except a better draft pick. I just am at a loss for words that there is not a single person in this coaching staff that can step up, can raise their voice and say, hey, let's get this done together instead of this just pure chaos that's unfolded specifically on the defensive side of the ball here over these last 3 weeks.
Well, I mean, okay, let's look at it. What you said from the start. Matt Eberflus was a problem. But there is deeper problems. I think he was the start of the problems. You look, I think honestly, the problem started when, you can make the argument they should have fired Matt Eberflus in the offseason. I won't argue against that. They decided to stick with him. But even then, they had the chance to bring in the right offensive coordinator and set up your rookie quarterback, the number 1 overall pick, with a good offense. You know what I mean? Like a good play caller, a good system. And I think Thomas Brown is a good quarterbacks coach, passing game coordinator, all that stuff. He struggles with in-game head coaching stuff. A couple decisions today were a little mind-boggling, but at the same time, like, it's his third, fourth interim game. Like, you could kind of pass. You could kind of give him a pass on that. But when they sat down and they had all these interviews, Shane Waldron got a second interview. They went across the country to interview all these guys. Cliff Kingsbury got an interview. Liam Cohen got an interview. And they stuck with Shane Waldron and their whole process. And now that we're learning more about this, where they were happy with the communication and they were happy with how he laid out his plans. And you sit there and now you hear that Ryan Poles is saying, well, communication in the beginning of this, offseason wasn't great. We needed to work on that and all that stuff. There's your first problem. They hired the wrong offensive coordinator. And that is kind of just a domino effect. Now, Matt Eberflus, heck of a defensive coordinator. I think we're starting to see that, like, he kept his defenses in games. He kept these in the game with his defenses. Just not a good in-game coach. Eric Washington, here's the issue with that. He called plays for Carolina in 2018, 2019, I think it was. Didn't go very great. He called plays in the preseason. Preseason is a different animal than the regular season. So when he's calling plays now, it's really his first time with this defense, and it's just not going good. And when you got, Williams running untouched through your secondary 82 yards, and you got Amon St. Brown picking up a 3rd and 17, pretty much going across the field to do it. And you have Jahmyr Gibbs, who is just zigzagging across the field and no one's getting close to him. There's some issues. Honestly, dude, I really think, and I'm not saying the season would be turned around if this happened, but they're really missing Andrew Billings in the run game, and they're really missing Jaquan Brisker. Like, I hate to be a meatball, but, like, you kind of need that hard-hitting Jaquan Brisker. Like, that guy's going to set the tone. But, again, do they have one more win with them maybe? You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing that's going to change this season.
And here's the thing that I struggle with is, like, where is Jaquan Brisker right now? This cannot be a concussion issue at this point in time. It truly can't. Like, there's more to the story we're probably never going to get, or we're going to get
we'll get it
30
after.
We'll get 33% of the story, and we're going to have to piece things together. And so the question becomes, with the way that this team is currently constructed, just how many people can you rely on to be a solid player moving forward for whomever comes in to help try and fix this team, whether it is GM, whether it is coach. I truly don't know. And the big thing today, watching the offensive line just continue to go down in shambles. You end up losing Braxton Jones to a pretty gnarly looking injury. You also have Tevin Jenkins go down again. You're now at a point where outside of Darnell Wright, you are going to probably be replacing 4 offensive linemen come 2025. That is not okay by any means. And again, you're staring down a process that, a lot of people gave Ryan Poles grief that he did not properly address certain things within this team. And, here we are week 16 on the verge of the off season. And it's, told you so. That's really where we're at is, we're at third string linemen on both sides of the ball. I mean, it's incredible that it hasn't
let
been
me ask you
worse
this.
than what it was.
Did Detroit's defensive line look like a line that was banged up and was missing tons of starters? No, not at all. Not at all. It looked like they were a line that could start on a lot of football teams.
I mean, albeit they only had, I believe, 1 sack today. I think that's what they ended up with. Maybe they got a second one. They got a second one late.
They got a second. They should have. I mean, they could have had 2 or 3 more if Caleb Williams doesn't escape out of those.
Right. So it just, I mean, we're looking at a Bears team that leads the league in sacks allowed by a wide margin. Now we're seeing his name go up there with the likes of David Carr for most sacks for a rookie quarterback, and it's not a good feeling to see this continue to occur. I mean, for the sole fact that there was so much of a focus. We're going to give him his weapons. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, and it was all smoke screens. The entire thing was smoke screens, and it doesn't truly make any sense to me that they keep going to these same wells of answers and wells of personnel that just clearly are not getting the job done. And I mean, again, we're still seeing players out on the field that, for all honesty, they should be healthy scratches. They plain and simple, they should not be on the field, and they're making mistakes. And the worst part is you also have guys that are healthy scratches that also fall into that category. So you have so many guys that you can't even rely on a 53-man roster. I mean, Amagaji was a healthy scratch today. Yeah. Like they just said, "Yep, no, you're not ready." That's a 3rd round pick from this year, and he is a healthy scratch because he just does not have it. And they are on their 3rd tackle, and they can't rely on him to be one of their 3 best left tackles.
And here's the thing. Like, people are going to say, he sucked. Look at him last week. Why? Because I posed the question, I'm like, why is he not active? And I know they had to bring up Glazer from the practice squad as a center. But you have Mercedes Lewis, you have Gerald Everett. You can make one of those guys inactive. Colin Johnson, Tyler Scott were both active. But how do you get better if you're Kieran sitting on the bench inactive? No, give him the reps, man. You could risk the injury of Caleb Williams getting hurt. You could risk that with Braxton Jones. You could risk that with any offensive lineman. You can risk on any play. He needs reps to get better. I thought, probably a good time for him to get some reps, maybe when Braxton Jones came out. But I actually talked to him after the game in the locker room, and he said he found out this morning he was going to be inactive, and didn't take it personally, understands it, but it is a little disappointing in my eyes. He's a 3rd round pick, should be active. He should be playing, no matter how bad he was. That happens. That's how you learn. But some of these roster decisions are really biting Ryan Poles in the ass, and it's key positions, man, like offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, playmakers overall. Look at Detroit. Look at Minnesota. Look at Green Bay. They have playmakers everywhere at key spots. The Bears have a playmaker at quarterback. They have a playmaker in DJ Moore who, let's be honest. There's a couple times here where you can kind of see DJ Moore might be, ready for the offseason, but same time, I mean, it is what it is. They have Keenan Allen. DeAndre Swift's been hit or miss this year. But like the Lions have playmakers that are making you miss. The Vikings have Jordan Addison. They have Justin Jefferson. They have solid running backs. It's the Bears are way behind, and the Bears need an offensive line. The Bears need to build how the Lions built. Offensive line, defensive line.
And even beyond the build, to find a coaching staff that knows how to put the talent and the strengths of their personnel in positions to win. Because the other big thing, specifically from today, that was clear to me is like they just don't. They plainly don't. I mean, DJ Moore has honestly been reduced to a gadget type player.
Let's talk about this. What is up with these wide receiver handoff, jet sweeps, pitches? 3 in like the span of 7 plays they ran.
Yeah,
what are we doing here?
They're trying to be cute. I mean,
they don't have Tyreek Hill.
And I mean, you flub the first one right off the bat between Odunze and Caleb.
Yep.
It happens again with Moore later in the game where he's, fumbling out to the left end of the field as well. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then later on in the game, they get the ball down the field. They end up, I believe it was their final possession where they tried to go to DJ in the corner of the end zone. That's not the kind of ball you throw to DJ Moore. I mean, that's the kind of ball you throw to Rome Odunze.
Yeah.
Who can use his bigger frame to go up and get it. And, I mean, they did that once with him on 4th down. On a very well thrown up ball. They just said, go up and get it. And that's what Odunze did because that's the kind of guy that he is for this team. And it blows my mind that between Cole Kmet, they do not consistently use them in that manner. And then they would rather, try Keenan Allen and DJ Moore on these breadbasket type throws that might not have the correct touch and clearly are not going to go anywhere. It's ridiculous. And you look at, you talk about, DeAndre Swift. Again, another bad game from DeAndre Swift. Let's be real now. Going back, we are now, 9 carries for 20 yards today.
So he was under 2.
Yeah,
right?
Or he was
just over 2.
2.2. So again, the last 5 games, 30, 39, 38, 79 last week against Minnesota, and then 20 today. Those are his rushing totals for the last 5 weeks. You get Roschon Johnson back active and you give him 1 carry. 1.
I mean,
like, what are we doing?
The Thomas Brown experiment. That any consideration for him as head coach went right out the window. I mean, this is bad.
That went out the window 3 weeks ago.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's bad tape for his coaching search for any job.
Oh,
like it's and the poor guy. I mean, I feel for him. He's thrown into the situation because the Bears do what the Bears do. They don't fire a coach when they should have fired a coach before the season. When this revolving door, and it's going to happen again. I told someone, I said, it's pretty sad that I've been doing this full time, covering games since 2017. And every year except for 1 year, I could pretty much recycle the same stories. And I could just flip the names, go from Ryan and Matt to Ryan and Matt. I can switch some of the names of the running back. I can switch the quarterback. I can switch the defensive players. 1 year, and that was the year that they won the NFC North. I didn't have to do that. 2020, had to do it when they went to the playoffs because it was still dysfunctional. You know what I mean? Like it's what the Bears do. And it's like, it drives people insane. That stadium, dude, was probably 60-40 Bears fans. There was a lot of Lions fans.
There's a lot of lion blue in that crowd.
A lot, dude. They were chanting. Jared Goff's chant should never, ever happen at Soldier Field. Like that, it's more power to the Lions fans. I mean, they showed up, they paid their tickets, they kicked the Bears' ass. But that is crazy. That's where this franchise is at, man. And it's bad. They're in a bad spot. But I'll let you finish. I kind of got a little point I want to bring up too that we could talk about, but I'll let you go with your thought.
To that extent, it's been a crazy season. There's been a lot of dysfunction.
Yes.
But there has been one specific thing that has irked me across social media today, just continuously seeing it.
Can I guess?
Go for it.
Is it the Caleb Williams stuff?
It is.
Yes. Easy.
100% is. Yeah. Is that where you were going?
No. I was going with Ben Johnson, but I do want to talk about this too.
Well, so the big thing, all of it is, Caleb sucks, can't win games, can't lead his team, can't do this, can't do that. Let's get something straight here. This is a rookie quarterback.
Yes.
In his first season in the NFL.
Yep.
He has dealt with an offensive line that was clearly below average, has dealt with injuries, had 2 third-string offensive linemen playing for him today. His offensive coordinator was fired. His head coach was fired. And yet here he is with 3,200 passing yards, a potential to set the Bears franchise record still in these final 2 games. I think if he averages 260, he'll
259,
get it.
I think.
Yeah. 19 touchdowns to 5 interceptions with an 89 passer rating. We're talking about a guy who has not thrown an interception in over 300 pass attempts. A rookie quarterback, weeks 4 to 16. We're taking out the first 3 weeks. We know it was rough at first. His line is 17 touchdowns to 1 interception for a 96 passer rating. And all the talk has been Caleb sucks. He's not a good quarterback. He's getting ruined. He is making the best out of this situation that he possibly can. Yes, he's missed some throws. Yes, he's done some things that have, been a little rough to look at. Yeah, he's a little skittish because his offensive line sucks. Yeah, he's been let down by his teammates, but he still gives a damn out there. And we saw that today when he was taken off the field, and instead of Thomas Brown saying, you know what, we're down by 3 scores. We're going to kick a field goal to make it a 3-score game.
Yeah.
What are they doing? It made no difference whether they sat there and kicked a field goal or went for it on 4th down, and Caleb was pissed. And I love it that he was pissed about it. He was fired up. And you look at that, you want to go even further with this. Caleb Williams versus the NFC North.
Yep.
306 total yards per game, 8 touchdowns to no interceptions, and a 98 passer rating.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault that he's not winning games.
And hold on, Chris, this is garbage. I'm going to say this right now. This is garbage. This is not Caleb's fault. Drop it. If you're going to sit here and say that it's Caleb's fault, get out of here.
This is the problem. It's the social media engagement. It's he paints his nails. He's soft. He cries in his mom's arms. He does. You know what I mean? There was a narrative unfair about him at his time at USC because he was good. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. He had no defense at USC. None whatsoever. And it continues in the NFL. And it's crazy, dude. It's like, I don't think it helps that Jaden Daniels is doing what he's doing. The Commanders also had 5 turnovers today and should have lost that game if A.J. Brown could catch a pass, or I believe it was A.J. Brown, catch a pass over the middle. And the Philly defense held up. But this narrative of, oh my God, like Jaden has to be really good and Caleb can't, or Caleb could be really good and Jaden can't. No, this is going to be one of the best rookie quarterback classes in a very long time. People keep saying that 2020 class with Burrow and Tua and Herbert. That's probably the last great one besides 83, but like this one is going to has a chance to be better than that. And it's Drake May, it's Jaden Daniels. It's Bo Nix is having an impressive year. Caleb Williams is having a rookie season where if Matt Eberflus knew how to coach and Matt Eberflus was a good in-game coach, I've said this before, we've heard this, we'd be talking about Caleb Williams because he's not going to the playoffs. Yes, the sacks need to be cleaned up. Yes, the deep ball accuracy needs to be fixed. He understands that. He's said it multiple times. Watch the pressers, people. Listen to the pressers. He said it. He knows what's going on. He's having a fine rookie season. I just think the media hype before, I'm sorry for it. The media hype before with all these weapons, everything is just, it got to the Bears and they're just, yeah. But, and again, people in the comments, Caleb this, Caleb that, like, it's insane to me. We have never seen a rookie quarterback do this in Chicago sports history. Literally have never seen it happen. Look where the Bears were at. The Bears had 7 wins with Justin Fields.
Oh, we lost Zack. We'll get him back. But no, this is the thing. It is like, here we are with, here he is. He's coming back.
And up. That's on me. My MacBook Touch over here has a back button. That's on me. These Caleb people are driving me nuts. But
well, no, and this thing, don't slander here. Like, what are we doing? Like, what? If you're watching this garbage, don't be commenting slanders.
He also did not have the same offensive line as Fields. So I mean, it's just not this. It's not the same.
It's not.
No, and it's crazy. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. But
yeah, I mean,
it's just, it's not being a Caleb apologist. I've written that he needs to fix things.
Yeah, he does. He clearly
everyone understands that. But I mean, like we look at the stats.
He is the problem to this team. Get out of here.
No,
there are people out here that are, literally treating him like a 5-year vet that say he's got to get all this figured out right out of the gate.
Yeah.
He's got to get this situated. It's like, come on.
What's his worst game of the year? What was his worst game? Washington?
Honestly, it might have been his first one.
Okay, so second worst, Washington, right? The Washington game was pretty damn bad. So it was Patriots pretty bad for the most of it. Patriots game was bad.
Yeah.
The Washington game, he led them back twice. He should have had 2 go-ahead scores. They fumbled with the Doug Kramer at the goal line. Recovered from that, led them down, and the head coach told you that 13 yards did not matter. And the head coach botched that, and Tyreek Stevenson is waving to the fans and all that. The Bears win that game, the narrative changes. It's crazy, man.
But I mean, you're talking about a quarterback that willed them back against the Commanders.
Yeah.
That willed them back against the Packers. That willed them back against the Vikings. Attempted to will them back against the Lions.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much that works against what this team is trying to do. And tell me that you want him to fail.
Yeah.
That's essentially what you're saying. And you're going to sit here and you're going to make, these excuses. You're going to compare things that frankly don't even matter. I mean, I've got one guy, he paints his nails. Like, is that you're so fixated on that? There is a moronic portion of this fan base that is focused on that. Oh, he cries. Okay, do you want to talk about CJ Stroud?
Yeah.
You want to talk about him yesterday?
Yeah, I want my quarterback to have passion.
You can't show emotion. Like, grow up.
I want my quarterback to have emotion. Here's the craziest thing is, like, Bears fans bash Jay Cutler for not having any emotion. And now they bash Caleb Williams for having emotion. So it's just the storylines. Avoiding the media, whatever. Did it one time in college. He has been to every media session. I've been there for every media session. He's taken accountability. Enough. Okay, let's go to a different subject because it's just never going to end.
Yeah.
Let's talk Ben Johnson.
All right.
So he gets a little bit of an audition at Soldier Field. And we have to preface this by saying Lions have a lot of weapons on offense. You know what I mean? Like we've talked about St. Brown, Laporta, Montgomery was obviously hurt today. Gibbs, not discrediting Ben Johnson. But you have to point that out. I mean, the Lions have built this right: speed, power running back, good wide receivers, a good quarterback, a really good offensive line. It took Penei Sewell, more power. I mean, that was a slam dunk pick. They built their line with veterans. Their defensive line, they have, Aiden Hutchinson has been hurt, but when he's healthy, he's a game wrecker. They pick up good veterans. Secondary, a little shaky at times. Ben Johnson comes into Soldier Field, has a heck of a game. And the play that everyone's talking about, the fake stumble, which is crazy because he took that from the Packers week 1 of 2013. I'm sold on Ben Johnson. I think it's the slam dunk. I think it's the guy you have to hire. And I think it's getting closer and closer to the national media pushing, whether it's Johnson's agent kind of pushing this stuff. But you heard, I think it was Pellisario today said that there's interest, or, it'd be the smart hire for the Bears. The Bears are interested. I'm sold, man. I know people are scared of, the first-time head coach, or we're going back to Matt Nagy and Mark Trestman. If you also hire the veteran, who are you going back to? You're going back to John Fox. You know what I mean? It doesn't, that stuff doesn't matter. I like that he comes from Dan Campbell's system where he knows your team has to be tough. You can't take games for granted. You have to be smart, a little risky at times. I get it, but you have to have that tough mentality. I like that, man. And I think he'd work wonders with Caleb Williams. I think he'd be really good for this offense. I'm on board. I'm 100% on board Ben Johnson. I don't want Mike Vrabel right now, but I would go. If it's not Ben Johnson, I'd be a little disappointed.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of folks out there that just say there needs to be a football guy that can shape leadership in that locker room and really just get the team back on track.
Yeah.
With everything that's been going on, and obviously the number of players that have just kind of folded this year, and making sure that doesn't happen. I don't know if you saw the clip from Marshawn Lynch's podcast. There was a former player back in the Trestman years,
Ricardo Lockett.
Yes, talking about just how poor the Bears were as a franchise when it came to how they carried themselves. And he's like, I go into San Francisco, I go into these other cities I've played in, and it's like hard nosed, like fight could break out anytime because these guys care and they want to win. And I go into Chicago, I could have dropped 4 balls and no one will say a word to me.
Yeah.
And it's the culture here, things man. Like that. It is the culture. And so in my mind, I know you don't want him here, but I have a feeling that there's going to be a culture hire more than anything else for what this team is. And I hate saying it, but Vrabel is that guy if you don't think that Ben Johnson is that guy. And if it's not one of those two, then who is it?
Then you're screwed. I mean, that's not
right.
Let me say this again. It's not that I don't want Mike Vrabel. I probably said that wrong. Ben Johnson's my top choice. Ben Johnson would be my top choice. If I had to choose between the two, it'd be Ben Johnson. Here's my thing with the culture thing. Ben Johnson can create a culture. You know what I mean? Who's to say that a first-time head coach can't create a culture? You can create a culture. Kyle Shanahan created a culture. Dan Campbell created a culture. Those were all first-time head coaches. I mean, you could argue Matt LaFleur created a culture in a way because things were kind of getting out of hand with Mike McCarthy. So I don't know. I'm sold on Ben Johnson. The thing with Vrabel is a lot of people forget, man, 6 wins in those last 24 games. And it's tough. I mean, he's not going to have Derrick Henry either. And nothing against him, but you won't have the monster running back that, was one of the best running backs in the NFL for a span 6 years. So
unless they go meatball and draft Jeanty.
Yeah. It's got to be offensive line or defensive line. It just has to. Like you have to. I mean, it would be hell if it's not offensive line or defensive line. But I mean, I just thought it was a good showing for Ben Johnson today. I kind of think it was one of those where it's like, look, we got a lot to play for still. We can overlook these guys. And they just came out and, I mean, Jared Goff had 3 incompletions for like the first 2 quarters. Like you said, they punted once in their out of, or didn't score, whatever it was, out of 7 out of 8 drives.
Yeah,
They
seven,
scored.
yeah. So and their only one that they didn't was a missed field goal.
Yes, and it's a 65-yarder, which probably would have been good from 60 if they didn't get that penalty.
Yeah,
But,
probably.
Yeah.
And like that's the frustrating thing, just looking at it from top to bottom, is like they're like the long touchdown to Jameson Williams. I mean, there was nothing that was stopping that from occurring.
He went right by him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, clearly Jonathan Owens is not an NFL starting caliber secondary player anymore. Not a safety that you should be relying on to give you consistent production at that position. There were a few times he was caught out of line today, and I don't know what it is with the Bears wanting to focus so much on playing zone defense. Clearly, there are times where it just does not work, that they just look lost. There are areas where they're supposed to be passing receivers off to the safeties. It's not happening. The communication is not there. I mean, there were a couple times Kevin Byard's like looking around like, where were you? I mean, he's just shrugging like, what more can I do when I have to cover, the out route 10 yards down the field and somebody goes streaking up and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
But again, talking about, making decisions and going in for themselves. I mean, that kind of just sums that whole thing up. And what's it matter? I mean, again, we're talking about Jalen Johnson a little bit earlier today. He had on the Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown, that did not look like a touchdown. Like it was going to be a touchdown. And Jalen was right there. And he didn't even try to tackle him. He was in position to keep him off the goal line, and he just didn't. And then, and again, like we said, the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Like, you are a captain. You are somebody that should be setting the example for the rest of this defense. And they didn't. And he didn't.
Just feels like bad vibes for this team all around. It feels like they're going through the motions. We heard the stuff that came out after the whole Thanksgiving game, and I think DeMarcus Walker after the Vikings game was pretty pissed off for that game. Still, I mean, you gotta put stuff on tape. You got a couple guys, you get paid, man. You still gotta play. It's just, I get it. Like, it's frustrating. This is high expectations going into the season. Same time, man, like, people bust their ass to go to these, earn money to go to these games too. So but I mean, it's not going to get any prettier. I mean, Seattle comes in, they gave Minnesota a good game. Maybe the short travel week helps the Bears there. It is Christmas. They're probably going to spend Christmas in Chicago. So I don't know, but you got Green Bay, looks like Green Bay still has to. I mean, I don't know why we're putting lipstick on a pig. I get it. We just said that.
We literally said the whole team. What are you talking about? God,
you got to listen to the
comments tonight are ridiculous.
We said they're not the same team.
The whole team's great. Bring them all back. We're not saying that.
No, they're bad. No excuses. They're bad. They're quitting. They're not. It's not good all around. But yeah, Green Bay's got something to play for now with seeding. So I mean, Ryan Poles is looking at 2-16 in the NFC North if he loses against Green Bay. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that, but it's not good right now. This whole culture thing that Ryan Poles has built, quote unquote, is just not. It's not sustainable right now. They have to figure something out. Either you let him hire the coach, and he has to make that right hire, or you finally pair up the GM with the head coach and get your quarterback in sync with that. And because I mean, here's the tricky part: if they keep Ryan Poles, you're going to have to extend him, unfortunately, because you have to pair him with that coach.
Right.
So,
right. And again, it just follows that 1 year off. What a trap that the Bears have found themselves in for the better part of the last decade. where
Yeah.
they just can't line things up, and they have this opportunity to line things up. And I've heard the argument that, you get rid of the GM, there's going to be, you're taking 2 steps back because he's going to want to bring in his guys. And it's like, I mean, not necessarily. You want somebody that you can bring in here that knows what they're doing, that's
Yeah.
going to be able to pass the torch to this next regime of coaches and understand what needs to be done from a draft perspective, where you're looking at right now a top 10 pick. They're still at 9. They're probably going to be stuck at 9 with the
They'll be
way that the
stuck.
rest of the records have panned
They'll
out.
be stuck at 9.
And you have the Panthers and their pick, which right now it dropped down. So it's going to be this right now. It's the 7th pick of the second round. And then you have yours that'll be at the 9th pick of the second round. But there's still 3 very good trade chips or draft chips, however you want to look at them, to improve this roster. And again, now looking at what happened with Amagaji, Torrey Taylor's great. Don't get me wrong. But now a 4th round selection on a punter isn't looking all too great right now with the rest of the holes that are currently happening on this team. And I hate it. Honestly, the irony and all that. Oh, you won't have to punt so much this year, that we heard at the beginning of the year. I mean, that is
Backfired.
freezing cold takes territory
Backfired, man.
for what that is. And
At least
sucks.
At least I don't think he doesn't have more punt yards than pass yards.
He's got to be close.
There was that stat that he had more punting yards. Torrey Taylor had more punting yards than Caleb Williams had passing. I don't think that can't be the case anymore.
I don't know. Might have to look that up and see just how close that is, because it also wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
But again, it just I look at this team, and we had a Lion fan in the chat earlier. He's got the same offensive line that they had a year ago. And like, no, they don't. They don't. It honestly, you could argue that it's worse this year, that they relied on Nate Davis this year after last year.
Well,
He's
Matt
not
Pryor's
doing
played.
Right. I mean, last year you had Darnell Wright, Lucas Patrick. Lucas Patrick was garbage.
Yeah.
Nate Davis, Tevin Jenkins, who was injured a lot of the time. Braxton Jones dealt with a neck injury. Cody Whitehair, who was not good. And then Larry Borum. We're still seeing Larry Borum. We're still seeing Braxton Jones. We're still seeing Tevin Jenkins. But again, Coleman Shelton, we have seen him be caught off guard several times in the middle of the line.
Snap infraction today.
Snap infraction. How many times do you see a snap infraction? Like, he's no better than what Lucas Patrick, Cody Whitehair, in that entire Frankenstein of a center position that it was last year.
And here's also the other thing. Even if Caleb Williams had a better offensive line, look at the stats between Caleb Williams and look at Justin Fields' 3rd year. The offensive line is not the difference for why Caleb Williams has more passing yards and has been playing better.
You can't argue that Caleb has better weapons, which he does.
He does.
And that's
the Bears also beat a lot of bad defenses last year down the stretch. A lot of bad defenses. The only legit defense that they beat essentially was Detroit, and you could probably argue Minnesota. They did not score a touchdown in that game. Dude, they beat Atlanta.
No, they didn't.
They beat Arizona. Like, they beat a lot of bad teams.
Carolina,
Vegas,
like Washington.
They beat a lot of bad teams down the stretch last year. It was fool's gold. They didn't score a touchdown against the Packers in the final week of the season. Like, what are we doing here?
That's the thing.
Nuts.
That's the thing with this year, though, is looking at the front end of their schedule with Tennessee, with Carolina, with Jacksonville, with LA, without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. It's the same exact situation where I think there were some people chirping like they haven't beat anybody good. Like, just wait. They were right. They were right.
What?
Like that is 100% it.
Yeah, you could say. I mean, people said it during the Rams game. Like, they don't have Puka. They don't have Cooper. You have to win this game. Like, you have to win this game. So it's just, it comes down to, like I said, beginning. Should have moved on from Matt Eberflus at start of last offseason. It's your biggest mistake. Then you get the offensive coordinator wrong. Second biggest mistake. it's just, you can list the mistakes from the GM and the head coach, and it's a perfect disaster. It's the recipe for disaster. And now we have another interesting off season, which is gonna be coming up here, man. We only got 2 games left, so
Yeah, I just don't see a scenario in which, based on what the Bears defense showed us today, that they will actively try and stop Jackson Smith and Jigba and DK Metcalf and the rest of that offense that is very prolific
yeah,
when it comes to what Seattle can put out there. Yeah, you can say Geno Smith can throttle that sometimes, but it's still a very good offense. And for all honesty, we've also seen that it doesn't take much to be a very good offense against the Bears this time around either.
that's
So
true.
it's it's tough. It definitely is tough. It's clear that this is a team that has given up for all, 2024 purposes, and that sucks. You want to see some fire out of folks. Keenan Allen showed some, Caleb Williams has shown some, but you want to see it more and spread across the entire team. And it's just a matter of, can we see anything like
Yeah.
that, or are we going to
Yeah.
have to wait to see who picks up this team as the new head coach in 25? So tough. But now we
Yeah.
get another national game on Thursday night with
Yeah.
Thursday Night Football. Hey, at least it's on Amazon, so it's a smaller
Yeah.
crowd, right?
Exactly. There you go. There you go.
Or at least we like to think so,
Yeah.
with everything going on. But at least we saw some first half touchdowns. I guess that's the silver lining to to today. And again, if Caleb averages 20, let's see, yeah, 260 yards these next 2 games passing, then he sets the Bears all-time record for
Yeah.
passing yards in a season. So yeah, he does it with an extra game. We'll see how it goes, but lots to come, and a lot of overhaul happening as well. Hopefully by the time we get through these next 2 weeks. So Thursday night, we'll be back at it for another fun, the
Late
Soldier
one.
Field finale. It's going to be a late one for sure. So hopefully everybody does enjoy the holidays and tries to enjoy what
Yeah.
football is
Don't
like
stress
here.
about the Bears. Don't stress
No,
about the Bears.
no,
Not
no
worth
reason
it.
to stress about the Bears.
Not worth it.
Maybe just stress about hopefully them getting a higher pick than 9 based on this 9-game losing streak. But things just work out certain ways, if that's the way we can put it. So do appreciate everybody for tuning in. For Zack Pearson, I'm Steven Johnson. Thanks for hanging out with us here this evening, and we will talk to you next week for Bears Seahawks and Week 17. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good one.